When Mary Kirk thinks of her late brother Charlie, the images that come first are not of crowded rallies or television debates, but of something far more personal. She remembers the sibling who teased her during childhood, the brother who carried a confidence that seemed to brighten any room, and the young man who believed he could shape the world around him. For her, Charlie was never just a public figure admired by millions. He was family. That bond, she feels, is deeper than any loss and immune to the passage of tragedy. Growing up in suburban Chicago, Mary shared her childhood with a brother whose determination and energy were evident from a young age. Charlie pursued his calling in politics with unwavering focus, while Mary gravitated toward books, culture, and art. Their paths diverged, but their home life bound them together through shared parents, traditions, and memories that transcended differences. Political disagreements were never enough to fracture their relationship. Mary often admired Charlie's courage to defend his beliefs, even when those beliefs sparked criticism, while she herself chose quieter avenues to express her convictions. Love and respect, rather than rivalry, defined their bond. The sudden loss of her brother in September 2025 created a silence that words could not fill. To the public, Charlie Kirk was a bold conservative leader, founder of Turning Point USA, and a voice that resonated across the country. To Mary, he was a source of laughter at the dinner table, a storyteller who could turn the ordinary into something memorable, and a loyal family man. The world knew the activist, she knew the brother. And in that memory, she bid him farewell, cherishing both his impact and his humanity. Mary's own story, however, unfolds far away from political stages. She has always been the quieter sibling, not in the sense of insignificance, but in the way she carved her own space with grace and independence. The daughter of Robert Kirk, an architect, and Catherine, a mental health counselor, Mary grew up in a household where curiosity, reflection, and compassion were highly valued. Politics was never forced upon the children. Instead, their parents encouraged them to think critically, ask questions, and follow their own passions. This environment nurtured two very different paths. Charlie's into politics and Mary's into art and culture. Though she dabbled in politics during high school, joining the wheeling young Republicans like her brother, Mary quickly realized that her heart belonged elsewhere. She discovered a love for history and art that only deepened with time. At the University of Illinois at Chicago, she pursued a degree in art history, criticism, and conservation, graduating in 2019. Her years at UIC cemented her belief that art was not just about aesthetic beauty, but about preserving stories, identity, and truth. Her professional journey began in the galleries and museums of Chicago, where she worked as a gallery assistant before venturing into her own art consulting business, sometimes referred to as Kirk Art Services. For Mary, this was more than a job, it was a philosophy. She viewed cultural institutions as vital spaces that connected communities to their histories, gave voice to overlooked narratives, and preserved collective memory. While Charlie made his mark with speeches and political organizing, Mary influenced in subtler ways, championing cultural preservation and education. Her worldview also evolved as she matured. In her teenage years, she mirrored some of her brother's conservative leanings, but by the mid-2010s she began to embrace progressive politics. Inspired by figures like Senator Bernie Sanders, she lent her voice to causes centered on racial justice, education, and social equality. She spoke with particular passion about the Whitney Plantation in Louisiana, an institution dedicated to confronting the history of slavery in America. Mary called on others to support its mission and pushed for greater funding of cultural organizations like the Institute of Museum and Library Services. These stances reflected her deep commitment to honest storytelling through history and art. The contrast between siblings could not have been sharper. Charlie led a national movement rooted in conservative ideals, free market principles, and opposition to progressive agendas. Mary, meanwhile, leaned toward progressive values, drawing attention to cultural memory and social justice. Yet despite these differences, their family ties remained intact. There were no reports of public disputes between them. Instead, they lived in mutual respect, embodying the idea that strong families can sustain different voices without division. Mary's 20s were largely defined by her commitment to privacy. Unlike her brother, she avoided the limelight, even shielding her social media presence by using aliases. Very little of her personal life made it into the public domain, and that was how she preferred it. But with Charlie's death, the quiet walls around her life were suddenly pulled back. Media outlets became curious about her, often framing her as the sister with contrasting views, or even the hidden sister. While she had never sought recognition, she became a figure of public interest simply because of her connection to her brother. In the days following Charlie's assassination, Mary did not take to microphones or public memorials. She did not give sweeping statements or public interviews. Instead, she chose silence, mourning privately with her family. For those who misunderstood her restraint, it might have looked like detachment. But in truth, it was consistent with the way she had always lived, thoughtful, private, and unwilling to turn grief into performance. Those who know Mary describe her as independent and principled. Choosing a path so different from her brother's required quiet courage, and she managed to do it without bitterness or antagonism. She was never in competition with Charlie. Rather, she was committed to living authentically in her own way. Her devotion to art and education underscored her belief in the importance of cultural memory and intellectual integrity. In many ways, she represents a different kind of influence, one that does not rely on microphones or cameras, but on preserving the threads of history for generations to come. Much about Mary's personal life remains unspoken. Her childhood memories, her private reflections on her brother's passing, and her future aspirations are known only to those closest to her. Whether she will step into broader activism or remain in the quieter lanes of art and cultural work is uncertain. What is clear is that she continues to see Chicago as both home and the center of her career, balancing her personal privacy with her professional dedication. Mary Kirk's story is not defined by imitation, but by individuality. While Charlie lived in the glare of public attention, she shaped her life away from the spotlight, grounded in the enduring values of art, history, and progressive ideals. Their journeys diverged dramatically, but their bond as siblings never wavered. Mary shows that family does not have to be about uniformity. It can embrace difference while preserving love. Her resilience speaks volumes. In a family marked by public prominence, she reminds us that influence can also be quiet, thoughtful, and deeply rooted in authenticity. She is proof that legacies are not always loud. Sometimes they unfold in the patient work of preserving memory and culture. And in the wake of her brother's passing, Mary continues to live true to herself, honoring both her own convictions and the enduring bond she shared with him. Thanks for watching.